But that's not all. The fourth proof we know we're really headed for a one world economy is, that's right, what I call the cashless proof. Okay? We're going to talk about a cashless society, and this is where we kind of left off last week, if you recall. And this is what we see the Antichrist needs to have if he's going to pull off the mark of the beast system. Okay? He not only needs a one world global economy, it somehow at one point needs to go electronic. Okay? It has to be a cashless electronic currency society. But again, as always, don't take my word for it. Let's go back to our text, Revelation 13. Revelation 13, verses 11 through 17 again. Let's plumb this one more time and take a look at what else is going on in this text. Okay? Is it true that the Antichrist needs to have a cashless society? Can he pull it off the way the currency is now? No, but we're getting very close to getting what he needs. That's what we'll see. Revelation 13, it's on page 1087 in my Bible, if that will help. Okay, as I stall some time, Revelation 13, let's take a look at verse 11, of course, talking about the false prophet working in cohorts with the Antichrist. Okay, what are they going to implement during this 7-year tribulation? Let's take a look. Then I saw another beast coming out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, the false prophet, but he spoke like a dragon. And he exercised all the authority of the first beast, the Antichrist, on his behalf, and he made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. And he performed great and miraculous signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to earth in full view of men. And because of these signs, he was given power to do on behalf of the first beast. He deceived the inhabitants of the earth. Then he ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast, who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. And he was given power to give breath to that image of the first beast, so that it could speak and cause all who refused to worship it, the image, to be killed. Then, if that wasn't bad enough, he also, what? Forced everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on his right hand or on his where? Forehead. Why? What's the whole big deal? Because of this. So that no one could buy or sell unless he had that mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. Now again, if you were here last week, we saw in this text, there really is coming a day, folks. It says it right here. In the Bible, predicted nearly 2,000 years ago. How do you know you're living in the last days? How do you know you're getting close to the 7-year tribulation? When you see, as it says here, a global push for a global economy. This is what the Antichrist needs to do. He is going to control all the buying, all the selling on the whole planet. And in order for that to happen, he has to control all the economy, okay? And again, if we were here last week, we saw that's already being put into place. The second thing, though, he not only needs a global economy, he needs a global currency, which again, we saw last week, they're calling for right now. But here's the point. That currency has to be some form of electronic currency. Why? Well, thanks for asking, Bobby. You're on the ball once again. It's because it's common sense, I think, as defined by the text here. It says if you're going to pay with something with what? There's 2 body parts mentioned. You got your right hand and your what? Forehead. So if you're going to purchase something, buy and sell something, make a financial transaction specifically with your body part, your right hand and your forehead, this tells us it has to be some form of electronic payment, right? Because common sense tells us that according to this text, it's not talking about somebody slapping a dollar bill to your hand and making a payment at 7-Eleven, right? It's not talking about $20 slapping, duct taping it to your head, okay, and all right, I got my shovel. Right? I mean, John already does that at bowling, and it freaks me out personally. I wish he would stop. Okay, but but seriously, it has to be some form of electronic payment, okay, to pull off the mark of the beast, right? Can we agree on that? It's common sense on the text. Now, here's the point. I don't know about you, but I am so glad we see zero signs of going to a cashless electronic currency society, not just in America, but around the world. There's no signs of that. Wrong answer, Joey. Thank you for that buzzer noise. Yeah, folks, in fact, it's almost here. It is almost here. I'd say we're just one little catastrophe away. Whole thing's going into place. Cash is out of here. And the first way we know that, folks, is because the promotion is already here. The promotion for a cashless society is already here.
Thousands of investors in what was one of our largest superannuation funds, Colonial First State First Choice Personal Fund, were misled by the Commonwealth Bank-owned business, Ross, according to, well, the federal court today. How many more cases are we going to expect here?
Well, you just wonder, don't you? They've all come out of the Royal Commission and some of the investigations that took place as a result of that. In this particular case, it goes back to 2014 to 2016. And really what happened was that superannuation law was changing then. There were so-called My Super products that were coming out that were cheaper and in many ways the easier default fund for many superannuation investors. Now, the big funds at that time were making money off their superannuation funds. They didn't want people to go to these new, cheaper funds, and so letters were sent out. And on this case, the federal court heard something like 12,978 instances where letters were sent to people saying they had to basically take action to really stay in the fund that they were with. Now, the point is it's now been decided by the federal court as a result of this action brought by ASIC that this was misleading conduct under not only companies law but also superannuation law as well. The Commonwealth Bank has apologised today, said yes, they've acknowledged all of this. They've also said that there's around 99% of cases that have been remediated. The irony of all of this, I would have to say, Kieran, is Colonial First State's in the process of being sold from the Commonwealth Bank to the private investment company KKR. It sort of shows just that banks have just wanted to get out of this space altogether. It's been almost a feature of what's taken place since the Royal Commission.
Indeed, Ross, and from one money-making or losing scheme to another, Bitcoin, what's the latest on that?
Okay, so a few things have happened here, both overseas and both here. Now, El Salvador today said it was going to start accepting Bitcoin as currency. Now, in places such as Australia and China, the United States, everybody has basically said it is not legal tender, it is not currency. Now, El Salvador, yes. But what occurred is that there were basically demonstrations, riots in the streets as a result of this. People believing their own currency was being effectively devalued. But this is also a case where there's been a warning here in Australia to a parliamentary inquiry today. Now, this has come from Afterpay, which says it believes that the government and indeed our own Reserve Bank has got to start thinking about issuing some sort of digital currency. And they say the reason for that is if they don't do it, in other words, the government and the Reserve Bank, then somebody else could very well get in there and almost take over, if you like, the business of running Australia's currency. I mean, as we've said many times here, people really don't use hard cash anymore. It's all about cards, so everything's electronic anyway.
Indeed it is. And finally, some big moves on the markets today, even though overall it was going backwards.
Indeed there were. So it was largely gold shares going backwards today. They were going backwards pretty quickly off the back of big falls in gold prices overnight as the US dollar rose as well. So there were companies such as St Barbara, here you can see down 5%, Silver Lake, Northern Star. These are our big independent, I guess, gold miners as well. You can see well off today in the markets. On the other side of it, though, you saw companies such as Macquarie Bank, where it was tipped that their interim profits could double. They were up much stronger today. You also saw Washington H. Soul Pattinson, another one up 5%. So amongst this sort of, if you like, market confusion at the moment, the overall market was down, but there certainly were some clear spots where it's expected that company profits are going to continue to rise.